Listen carefully. Because most people spend their entire lives misunderstanding how wealth is actually built. They think rich people know secrets they don't. They think wealth comes from luck, connections, inheritance, or some perfect opportunity that never appeared in their own life. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Wealth is usually built through behaviors so simple, most people ignore them. And that is exactly why so few people ever become financially free. Not because the path is hidden, but because the path is repetitive, quiet, slow, and at first, almost invisible. So in this video, I want to show you something different. Not fake motivation, not get-rich-quick fantasies, a real system. A system based on psychology, behavior, leverage, and long-term thinking. And if you genuinely apply what you're about to hear, your financial life can look completely different within the next few years. Not because of magic, because of momentum. Welcome to Wealth Sketch. Let's begin. The first thing you need to understand is this. Most financial problems are not income problems, they are behavior problems. Two people can earn the exact same salary and end up in completely different financial situations. One builds investments, the other builds debt. One creates freedom, the other creates stress. And the difference is rarely intelligence. It's habits. That's why wealth begins in the mind long before it appears in the bank account. Right now, whether you realize it or not, your brain has a financial identity. A hidden set of beliefs about money. Maybe you grew up hearing things like, money is hard to make. Rich people are greedy. We can't afford that. People like us never get ahead. Those ideas seem small when you hear them as a child. But over time, they become internal rules. And those rules silently shape your decisions. Because your brain constantly tries to keep your life aligned with what feels familiar. This is why some people sabotage opportunities without realizing it. They fear success more than failure. Because success feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels uncomfortable. So before you change your finances, you have to change your internal standard. You have to stop seeing wealth as something distant and start seeing it as something buildable. Because wealth is rarely created through one huge moment. It is usually built through thousands of small decisions, repeated consistently. Now here's where things become interesting. Your brain is constantly filtering reality. Psychologists call this selective attention. You notice what your brain believes is important. If you suddenly decide to buy a specific car, you begin seeing that car everywhere, not because it suddenly appeared, but because your attention changed. The exact same thing happens with money. When you begin focusing on opportunities, your brain starts noticing skills, trends, and possibilities you ignored before. And that is why wealthy people often seem lucky. They are not necessarily luckier. They are simply trained to notice opportunities faster. Now let's make this practical. For the next 7 days, before touching your phone in the morning, spend 5 minutes visualizing one financial goal clearly. Not vaguely, specifically. See the number, see the account balance, see the debt disappearing. Feel what financial peace would actually feel like, because your brain responds more strongly to emotional clarity than abstract goals. And once your brain emotionally connects to a future, your behavior slowly begins aligning with it. Now here's another thing most people never talk about. Comparison destroys wealth. Modern social media has created a culture where people constantly compare their real life to someone else's highlight reel. And comparison creates artificial pressure. You begin spending money to look successful, instead of using money to become successful. That expensive phone, the unnecessary car payment, the impulse purchases. Most of them are not logical decisions. They are emotional reactions. People buy status because they crave validation, but validation is expensive. And wealthy people understand something important. Looking rich and being rich are completely different things. One creates attention, the other creates freedom. And freedom matters more, every single time. Now let's move into something even more practical. Tracking. Most people have no idea where their money actually goes. They guess. And guessing creates financial blindness. That's why one of the fastest ways to improve your finances is simply becoming aware. Track every expense for 30 days. Everything. Coffee, subscriptions, random online purchases, food delivery. All of it. Because awareness changes behavior automatically. The moment you clearly see your habits, you begin questioning them. And once you question them, you begin changing them. Now here's the deeper truth. Small expenses are not the real problem. The real problem is unconscious spending. Buying without intention. Living on autopilot. Because unconscious spending slowly steals future freedom. Every unnecessary monthly payment reduces flexibility, and flexibility is one of the greatest forms of wealth. Now let's talk about time. Because financially successful people think about time differently. Most people spend money to save small amounts of time, but wealthy people spend time to create long-term leverage, and leverage changes everything. Leverage means creating value once, and benefiting from it multiple times. The internet has made leverage more accessible than ever before. One video can reach millions. One digital product can sell repeatedly. One skill can generate income globally. But most people still think in an old model. They trade hours directly for income. And again, there is nothing wrong with work. But if income stops the moment you stop working, freedom becomes difficult. That's why learning high-value skills matters so much today. Communication, writing, editing, marketing, content creation, sales, design. These skills create leverage, and leverage increases income potential dramatically. Now here's what most people misunderstand about skills. They think they need to become experts before starting. That's false. The market rewards usefulness, not perfection. You don't need to know everything. You just need to solve a problem effectively. That's why the internet created enormous opportunity. A person with useful knowledge can now monetize it faster than ever before. And this is exactly why so many people are building businesses online right now. Not because they are geniuses, but because they understand attention. Attention is currency now. If you can attract attention ethically and provide value consistently, income opportunities multiply. That's why YouTube has become one of the biggest leverage platforms in the world. One well-made video can work for years, generating views, subscribers, trust, income, while you sleep. Now think about how powerful that is. A normal job pays you once for your time. An online asset can continue paying repeatedly. That's a completely different financial model. And most people still underestimate it. Now let's discuss something that silently keeps millions trapped financially. Lifestyle inflation. This is what happens when your expenses rise every time your income rises. You earn more, so you upgrade everything. A better phone, a nicer car, a more expensive apartment, and suddenly, despite earning more money, your financial stress remains exactly the same. Because your lifestyle expanded faster than your wealth. And this cycle is endless unless you consciously stop it. Wealthy people often do something psychologically difficult. They delay visible rewards. They continue living below their means longer than necessary. And that gap between what they earn and what they spend becomes the engine of wealth creation. Now let's talk about investing. Because this is where money finally begins working for you. Most people think investing is complicated. But the basic principle is surprisingly simple. Consistently invest into productive assets. And give them time. That's it. Time matters more than intensity. A person investing small amounts consistently for 20 years often beats someone investing aggressively for only a few years. Because compound growth rewards patience. And compounding is one of the most powerful forces in existence. At first, it looks slow, almost disappointing. Then eventually, the curve changes. Growth accelerates. Momentum appears. And suddenly people think success happened overnight. But it never did. It was quietly compounding the entire time. The same thing happens with money. skills, businesses, content, reputation. All meaningful growth compounds. And this is why consistency is more important than motivation. Motivation disappears, systems remain. That's why automation matters. Automatic investing, automatic saving, automatic transfers. Because the less your future depends on daily emotions, the more stable your progress becomes. Now here's another truth that might change your perspective completely. Your environment shapes your financial future more than you realize. If everyone around you normalizes bad financial habits, those habits feel normal. If everyone complains constantly, limitation feels normal. But when you surround yourself with disciplined, growth-focused people, your standards rise automatically. That's why protecting your environment is critical. And today, environment includes digital content too. What you watch daily affects how you think daily. Your attention shapes your identity over time. So if your feed constantly promotes distraction, negativity, and comparison, your focus weakens. But if your environment promotes growth, learning, and discipline, your mindset evolves. Stop asking, how can I make money fast? Start asking, how can I build a system that improves my life for years? Because fast money usually disappears fast. But systems create stability. A YouTube channel is a system. Investing is a system. Skill development is a system. And systems quietly create freedom over time. That's why financially successful people often appear boring in the beginning. Because repetition looks boring from the outside. But repetition creates mastery. And mastery creates leverage. And leverage creates wealth. Now here's the truth almost nobody wants to hear. Most people already know enough to improve their financial life. The problem is not lack of information. The problem is lack of execution. People watch videos, feel motivated, then return to old habits. Because information feels productive. But action creates results. And this is where lives separate. One person keeps consuming endlessly. The other person starts building consistently. 5 years later, those two lives look completely different. Not because one person was luckier. Because one person acted. So here's what I want you to do after this video ends. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Take one action, track your spending, learn one valuable skill, open an investment account, start creating content, sell something you no longer use, do something that moves your future forward. Because action creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief creates consistency. And consistency quietly creates wealth. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Wealth Sketch, because here, we break down money, AI, and modern wealth in a way that actually changes how you think. And once you change how you think, you change how you live.